In the latest expose from Project Veritas, a woke assistant principal brags about indoctrinating kids and refusing to hire Catholic teachers, but it's much, much more than that, the post-millennial who wrote about the story. This guy talks about how he won't hire people over 30 years old. Illegal. How he won't hire conservatives. I think that's illegal. How he won't hire Catholics. Very illegal. This dude brags about this. This is the importance of undercover journalism. Do you think this guy would ever go out and admit what he's doing? Of course he won't. Only in private, when he thinks he's talking to someone who's agreeing with him, will he explain exactly how he breaks the law to target your children. Now, the first thing I want to say, Project Veritas gets undercover footage of Jeremy Boland, assistant principal at Cobb Elementary School. It is but one school. And you know what they're going to say. The left is going to say, oh, it's one bad apple. It's one school. That's not indicative of what's going on at any other school. No, I'm sorry. It is. We have a bunch of other stories that are very similar. We've got one story. I think I have it pulled up from the Post-Millennial. Take a look at this. Seattle Zoo hosts Youth Activity Academy to indoctrinate kids in critical race theory. They love to lie. They love to manipulate. I see the memes on Facebook. And they say things like, your racist grandparents are now outraged that schools are trying to teach about race. That's not what critical race theory is. And so I humbly respond to these memes, saying something as simple as, critical race theory is rooted in critical theory, Marxist ideology of oppressed versus oppressor, but it tints it away from class and towards race. That's literally the fact definition of what the book Critical Race Theory describes it as. And then you get all these people saying, wrong, it's actually just a legal term for racial disparities and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, I am not making a moral statement. I am not arguing. I am telling you a fact that is in quite literally the book Critical Race Theory, explaining how the inception of critical race theory occurred. That is, Kimberly Crenshaw liked Marx, said oppressed versus oppressor. I get it. But Marx doesn't understand race. So we need to take this concept, bring it to America, and apply race to it. That's what people are mad about. Not to mention that critical race theory encompasses a bunch of other weird and kooky ideas that people don't like, but ultimately results in people trying to be racist. You've got Ibram Kendi, who said that the only solution to past discrimination is current discrimination or future discrimination, whatever the quote was. Yeah, I don't like any of that. I want everyone to learn the history of slavery and racism. That ain't critical race theory. This is what these schools are doing to your kids. They are lying. They use the media to lie. This guy knows he cannot reveal what it is he's doing. And the funny thing is, even among regular people who are posting these memes, they don't know either. Here's the story. It's crazy stuff. Bravo to Project Veritas. In a new video released by Project Veritas on Tuesday, the assistant principal of Cobb Elementary in Connecticut was captured boasting about how he doesn't hire Catholic teachers and how the teachers at the school sneak liberal ways of thinking into their teaching methods. This guy is effectively a cult leader. You know, not the highest tier cult leader, but you hear what he says. He knows he's breaking the law. He seeks out ideological framework and thinking, and then he brings people in who will teach democratic ways to the children. Quote, you're teaching them how to think. That's it. It doesn't matter what they think about. If they think about it in a logical, progressive way, that becomes their habit. Jeremy Boland was captured saying in an undercover conversation with a Project Veritas journalist. I would only say, I've seen these things out here in West Virginia. I recently contributed to a micro school. It is a Christian-based micro school. Now, I'm not a Christian. I'm not necessarily big on organized religion or anything like that. But I certainly believe there's a good moral framework. And this school, so they say, it's the religious studies is optional for parents. What they're really concerned about is giving parents a place to get their kids away from this. But I got to tell you, I think any good liberal should want their kid to learn about religion. And it is incumbent upon the parent to set the child straight on their values. That is to say, if you look, this guy, he wants kids to think the way he does and all that stuff. That ain't for him. In this expose, he talks about how parents think they should be the ones telling the schools how to shape their children. Nope. These people are cultists. They want your children because they don't have any of their own. You bring your kids to them, and then don't be surprised if in a few years your kids hate your guts and call you evil. It's insane to me how many people come here to come on Timcast IRL and they're like, I'm a staunch conservative and my kids are going to college. And I'm like, why? Why are you? First of all, how are you paying for it? Why would you do that? You know what's wrong with it. What is wrong with you? It's amazing how many people claim like, I know it's a problem, but my kids got to go to these schools. And I'm like, dude, fine, I get it. People struggle. How are you supposed to go to work if you got the kids? That's a horrible culture that we've built, and that is a problem. Kids should be with their parents while they're working, and that's the reality. But instead, what we have now, kids are being sent to indoctrination centers, and the parents are saying, but I have no choice. This is why when someone reached out to me saying, you talk about this stuff, we need support, I made a small 5-figure contribution to a micro school so that they can get books, so they can help students, because I believe that we need to do something about this. And I'll tell you, what, from my perspective, I went to Catholic school. Didn't understand any of it. Didn't have good teachers, I guess. But I had parents. I had good parents who explained philosophical ideas to me and to the best of their ability. I think it would be great for any kid to learn about religion in school. And then if you're a parent who doesn't believe in that stuff, you simply tell your children and explain to them the values that are enshrined in our Constitution, how we want to protect the rights of individuals, how we care for each other in the community. And I got to be honest, the message of the story, the idea of Jesus is a great story. That's the thing I talk to people. And I'm getting into this because this guy outright says he won't hire Catholics, right? That's a big component here. The story I often tell people is that, I was atheist for a long time. Went to Catholic school, laughed, was like, this makes no sense. I don't believe in God. And then I met this dude who had a picture of Jesus on his wall. And I asked him if he was religious, and he said no. He just thought the idea of a dude who went around helping people was kind of cool. A dramatic oversimplification of the story of Jesus Christ, for sure. And I said, you know what? He's actually right. If all you take away from that is that there's a powerful story about a good guy who helped people, and you don't believe he was God or anything like that, that's still a good thing that we should hold up. So I'm not religious, but it's interesting the way these people operate. This guy knows he's breaking the law. He's breaking the law to discriminate against people who have values he does not like, when none of it's supposed to be coming up in schools anyway. This is evil. If you had a Catholic teacher who was secretly trying to indoctrinate kids to their religion in a public school, I would also say you need to knock it off. Let these kids, learn on their own, and their parents decide what they think is right for them. You're just acting in proxy of the parents. But what we get here with this guy and in public schools is not that. It's not secret Catholics trying to teach children about, Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I'm sure it happens sometimes. We don't live in a world of absolutes, except for, I guess physics or something, but whatever. But these people think they're above the law. They think they're smarter than you. They think they're better than you, and they're indoctrinating your kids. Look at this. He says, believe it or not, the open-minded, more progressive teachers are actually more savvy about delivering democratic message without really ever having to mention their politics. It's subtlety. They'll never say, oh, this is a liberal or democratic way of doing this. They'll just make that the norm. And this is how we handle things. It's subtle. And that's how you get away with it. That's how you get away with it. Amazing. Look, I don't know how you expose all of the teachers who are doing this, but this is fantastic work, even if it is just one school, because you need to tell your friends and you look at what happened in Virginia. You've got these horrifying stories of young girls who are taking their own lives or trying to, and that's terrifying. And it's because of psychopaths like this guy. Parents need to be able to see this so you can understand, hey, maybe the principal at your school ain't this guy. Don't accuse him of being, but make sure you're paying attention to what is going on in your schools, because these are the people and these are the things they do. Let me show you this. This is a big story. Police investigate bomb threat at Boston Children's Hospital. I find this one really fascinating. Why is Axios, Axios.com, reporting on a hoax that was never really a big issue? Interesting. Now, bomb threats are bad. Everybody knows that. I've had it happen to me, which makes me wonder about who really called in a bomb threat at a hospital, because I can't imagine some, middle-aged conservative guy who's concerned about, transgender surgeries for children is doing something like this. No, this reeks more of a false flag. But I don't know. All I know is it's bad and you shouldn't do it, but the police certainly didn't take it seriously. They didn't. Why is Axios, a national publication, talking about a 20-minute fiasco that turned out to be nothing? It's interesting, isn't it? It's because it gets clicks. In this article from Axios, they call it, look at this, they say, the hospital offers genital surgeries for patients 18 and up, but has consulted people under 18 if they meet certain requirements. They say police didn't share details about the nature of the threat, but it comes at a time when the facility and other children's hospitals are under siege from far-right activists for providing health care for transgender and non-binary youth. Now, this is related in a sense to what's going on with the Project Veritas story, in that this man outright says one of the questions he asks of his potential hires is what they think about transgender kids. And if they don't answer correctly, he won't hire them. I've heard too many horror stories, man. One, I read several stories actually about young girls being driven to self-harm. There was one story I read where a person said their daughter started exhibiting all of these things, claiming they were a boy and things like that. And so what they did was they went to the school and they said, thank you to the school for helping my child through this. Then they waited a short amount of time and said, gotta move, relocate for a new job. Sorry, but thank you for your help. Brought their kid, their young daughter, out of the city and away from all of these people and just got them off the internet without saying anything against the ideology or anything like that. And then within a few months, their daughter, they wrote their daughter went back to normal. Let their hair color come back out normally, started doing normal things again, just get them away from the cult. I read another story, many stories that are very similar, where, someone brought their daughter to the school, and it's really horrifying too, because a lot of these parents are like, I trusted the school to do the right thing and didn't understand why my daughter ultimately tried to take her own life. One story said that the daughter was going to these schools, identifying as trans, but at home getting angry about being called boys pronoun or boys names, but the school kept insisting. And then ultimately the parents said that the source of anxiety was the school. Here's what I think was happening to this child. They wanted to fit in. They wanted to be considered normal or cool or something like that. So at school, they were going along with what they were told they should go along with because they wanted to fit in. But at home, they wanted to be themselves. And the school was making them feel pain because they were being pressured into this. These are horrifying stories. I don't have all the answers. I do believe there are trans kids. And I think it's because endocrine disruptors, there's two big things at play here. Endocrine disruptors, hormones and other chemicals and pharmaceuticals that are affecting babies in utero as well as kids who are in development, and that may play a role in kids having feminized or masculinized brains when they're female or male, so it's creating an inversion. I don't know to what degree the prevalence of that is, but I also know we have seen way too many stories of social pressure, transgender, gender dysphoria in kids. When you have schools that are actively pushing that, you are going to create very serious distress. This man he says, well, these older folks and these conservatives are brainwashed and there's nothing you can do. And it's like, dude, you're literally brainwashing people. If you want to not brainwash people, you introduce them to the conservative and the liberal. You introduce them to many different ways of thinking. You don't say, oh, we don't want these kids to get brainwashed, so we're only going to let them hear one ideology and hire people who know how to inject democratic messaging. Bro, that's brainwashing. Psychopaths. Here's the thing I want to show you about the Boston Children's Hospital thing and why I think it was a false flag. They're trying to claim that libs of TikTok and Matt Walsh are directing violence and far-right extremists and all that stuff are targeting the hospital. Take a look at this. A call reporting the threat came in around 8 p.m. Wow, that's serious. The police should have gotten there within what, minutes? Boston police spokesman David Estrada said, officers arrived at the hospital around 9:20 p.m. and closed off the area of Longwood Avenue. The scene was cleared around 10 p.m. Now hold on there a gosh darn minute. You mean to tell me that a threat came in at 8 p.m. and you didn't clear the scene for 2 hours and you didn't even show up for an hour and a half, basically? Sorry. Hoax. They said it was a false alarm. Outright. Okay, so it was a hoax. The police likely knew from the start it was not real. And that's why they didn't show up. And they probably just went through routine motions to show up. But of course now, the left is using this to brainwash, to indoctrinate. This is what needs to be exposed. They are coming after your kids. This is what you need to be showing people. The Post-Millennial. Seattle Zoo hosts Youth Activist Academy to indoctrinate kids in critical race theory. One of our staff members is participating on their panel focused on careers in zoos from a BIPOC perspective. What does that mean? Does that mean like, I don't know, like a bunch of white safari dudes kidnapped a bunch of animals or captured a bunch of animals and then brought them so we can stare at them and that's a problem or something? I don't know what that means. An organization operated by Tracy Castro Gill, formerly the director of ethnic studies at Seattle Public Schools, who replaced math with courses on power and oppression, held Youth Activist Academy at the Woodland Park Zoo and the University of Washington. It is time, parents, to get your kids away from this stuff, to pay attention. In Arizona, school choice has won, and thousands of parents are trying to get their kids into the schools of their choice. If conservatives, moderates, anti-woke people win on the issue of school choice, the left will cease to exist in 20 to 40 years. No joke. Because parents ultimately need to decide what is right for their children. Some parents are progressive, but you see what they're doing is exactly what this expose from Project Veritas is. It's the bullseye. You can see what these schools are doing. They are breaking the law. They are engaged in illegal activity to brainwash your children. Look at this. He says, they can find out so long as you never mention the politics of it. How do you do this without the parents finding out? And then later down the line, they're gonna vote Democrat, and you will have done a great service to our country. These people are psychotic. It's a cult. They want to make sure the kids don't get access to other information. You see, what is, there's a cult. A cult makes sure that you can't get external information, that you are only going down their path. And so when the left criticizes the work we do here at Timcast, I'm like, bro, I tell people to watch other channels all the time. I tell people to watch Kyle Kalinske and Crystal Ball, progressives, because you need to know what they're thinking to understand their arguments. Fact. In 2019, Jack Dorsey said, liberal journalists only follow liberal journalists and conservatives follow both liberal and conservative journalists. Tell me, which is the cult? And so they would say something like, Tim Pool is a conservative. That's what they're claiming. It was funny. Hassan Piker, he did a review of our song, Only Ever Wanted. Support our work. Click the link in the description below. He did a critique of it, and he called me a conservative. Do these conservatives? Bro wouldn't know what a conservative was if it walked up to him and said, hi, I'm a conservative. They have no idea because they're in a cult. They don't actually know what conservatives think. Their view of conservative is someone who disagrees with me. They think libertarians are conservatives. They're not. They don't understand, and they can't understand because they're in a cult. Anything outside their cult is a conservative. It's like a buzzword. It's meaningless. Yet anybody who's a conservative who watches my show knows that I'm not a conservative. But that's what they say. And it makes no sense, and it's confusing. And it's not actually helping anyone understand what's going on in this world. That's the reality. It's funny when they write, what far right is. These people are brainwashed and in a psychotic death cult. And I mean it. Because they're killing their own children. They're aborting their babies. And that's what I mean. And they're sterilizing their children. But it's progressive. And my attitude is just like, dude, far be it from me to tell you how to live your life and raise your kids. Personally, I think sex change for kids it's wrong to do that. But you know what? I'll just be completely honest. What am I supposed to do? Now, I advocate against it, sure. I think these hospitals, what they're doing is wrong, and they're lying, for sure. But if these liberals and these leftists are removing their children's ability to reproduce and terminating their own children, in 20 to 40 years, there will not be this ideology. Only if you win in the schools. You see, they know they don't have kids, so they need yours, which is exactly what this guy is doing. This is exactly it. Bringing in cult members to indoctrinate your kids. If you win on the issue of school choice, if you wake parents up to what's going on in these schools, in 20 to 40 years, the leftist ideology will cease to exist. And that's always been the case. Conservatives have more kids than liberals. The problem? Conservatives aren't paying attention culturally to what's going on, and they let their kids do this stuff. And conservative parents, many of them, are so stupid that they would be like, yeah, these colleges are bad. I'm sending my kid to the local university. It's like, you know what's going on there, right? And then the kid comes back with a shaved head, be like, I hate you, Dad. And they're like, what happened to my little pumpkin? Have you not paid attention? You know what's going on. And these people still say, I got to be honest. When people come here, we have a conservative on the show, and they're like, I'm really looking forward to sending my kid to college. I'm like, oh, good luck with that. Hypocrite? Ridiculous. Anyway, good work to Project Veritas. You got to call this stuff out. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.